How's it going, guys? It's James here. So, I just wanted to talk about how do I think The Last of Us Part 2 can possibly top my favorite game of all time in The Last of Us. So, since I'm recording this in August of 2019, we've seen 3 trailers for The Last of Us, but I want to dive deep into the gameplay trailer. And in particular, I want to talk about how it really impressed me. And what really impressed me about The Last of Us Part 2 trailer the most was it seemed like the AI improved tremendously. And if there's anything the original Last of Us can improve upon, it's definitely in the AI of enemies and NPCs. In the original Last of Us, at times Ellie would just be out in the open and there'd just be like enemies looking right at her, but they just wouldn't be reacting to her. And I know Naughty Dog actually designed the AI purposely for Ellie not to be noticed by enemies. And it did break the immersion a little bit, but it didn't happen too often where it really ruined the experience. But I'm hoping that in this game the AI can be a lot smarter. And from that trailer, it seemed like the AI was smarter because they were communicating with each other. They were looking under vehicles to look for Ellie, and it definitely seemed like they were more like cognitive than enemies would be in the first game. And the trailer also impressed me just from the animations. They were very impressive animations. I would actually say that the animations within that trailer are probably the most impressive animations I've seen in a video game. Now, can Naughty Dog actually deliver those animations in the final product? Hopefully, and I'm confident they will. It was just impressive how Ellie would squeeze between spaces, how she would cock the gun, and just all the little details of her. Just when she would walk up to that dead guy and pick the arrow out of his shoulder, it was impressive that they actually took the time to animate that. But it was also impressive how she would just in combat, how she would thrust her machete, or how she would dodge or get out of the way of enemies. And when she was thrown into the glass, it was all very detailed. And then the facial expressions, like when you could tell when someone was in pain or they got hurt, it looked all very realistic and very fluid. It was very impressive. So as far as the E3 2018 trailer, why I'm talking about it in this video is if Naughty Dog can deliver on what that trailer promised, then I think The Last of Us Part 2, from a gameplay perspective, will make the original Last of Us gameplay almost look average. And I did enjoy the combat of the original Last of Us. It definitely had its shortcomings, but the Last of Us Part 2 gameplay trailer was definitely impressive. And another thing I would say The Last of Us Part 2 has to do to top the original game is just tell a story that's just as gripping as the original. Now, I don't think it's possible to tell a story that's more gripping than the original story because, frankly, the original story, The Last of Us, is probably my favorite story in any video game, and it's one of my favorite stories just in any medium ever, really. But I think with The Last of Us Part 2, it's going to be challenging. It's going to be challenging to deliver on a story that is on the same bar as the original. And I mean, I expect it to be a very emotional experience. I expect it to be tense. And I'm curious to see if this game will be able to deliver on its simplicity. Like, I mean, the original Last of Us, what I enjoyed about the original Last of Us, its plot, was its level of simplicity. It was executed so well, but it wasn't overly complex. And that's what I really liked about it. You could digest everything from the original Last of Us plot, and it wasn't convoluted. It didn't try to be convoluted like a lot of games you see, where they feel like they need to add multiple plot threads, and they think that makes a story better. Whereas The Last of Us, it had a very simplistic plot it was trying to focus on, but the message behind the original Last of Us story was very powerful. And I'll be curious to see, if it can equal the original Last of Us, and if it can have characters that I care about, and not just Joel and Ellie, but can it introduce new characters that they've shown from the trailers that I can care about, and can it not try to copy the original and still be a great experience that is equal to the original? That's what I'm wondering, because I know Naughty Dog is trying to change it up this time with The Last of Us Part 2 story. They're not trying to tell a story that's centered around the theme of love. They're trying to tell a story that's centered around the theme of hate. So I'll be curious to see how different this is from the original, and if they can get away with making a story that's a lot different than the original, or are they going to try to play it safer and not try to maybe divert from the original too far. But we'll certainly see, and that's like my main concern, is that they'll introduce too many plot threads, and the plot will lose its simplicity, like a lot of video game series do when they enter sequels and enter multiple entries in the series. So we'll have to wait and see on that. Okay, so the final thing I would say that The Last of Us Part 2 has to do to top the original Last of Us is just surprise me. But not only surprise me, take risk. And what I mean by this is, the original Last of Us, there was a number of times where it surprised me. And with the sequel, it's probably going to be more difficult to surprise me, because I understand that world more. I understand the tone. I understand that no one is safe. And because of that, like, I've been speculating, could Joel or maybe even Ellie die in this game, or could both die in this game? And I hope that this game has a happy ending, but I don't expect it, honestly. I think this game could have a sad ending, and I really, from the dark tone of the trailer so far, I think it's very likely it could have a sad ending. Okay, I do have to say that if they kill off, like, Joel, I won't be upset, but it has to be done right. And what I mean by that is, I don't want Joel. I want Joel to go off in a dignified way if he's gonna die, which some have speculated that Joel could die in this game. And frankly, I think it makes sense for his character and his character arc. I mean, I feel like we kind of saw Joel's character arc from start to finish in the first game. Now, Ellie, I don't see how they could kill off Ellie, just because I feel like there's more stories to tell with her, and her story behind her character is fascinating, that she's, immune to the cordyceps fungus outbreak, and I feel like there's so many things you could do with that, in not just The Last of Us Part 2, but maybe even games after that. I mean, granted, I do think that The Last of Us Part 2 could be the final Last of Us installment, but I definitely feel like there's a lot more stories to tell with Ellie than there's Joel. And Joel, he lost his daughter in the first game. Then he but he found his second daughter in Ellie. And that was what was so awesome about the original Last of Us experience. You saw this character, he started off in a tragic event with losing his daughter, and then you saw him triumph and kind of do a controversial thing by saving Ellie at the end of The Last of Us, but it made the experience fulfilling after you knew that he was doing that to get, or he wanted Ellie because he wanted to gain what he lost. And without going too far on a tangent of the original Last of Us, but you guys know, if you played the original Last of Us, what I'm talking about. So I just kind of feel like, what what do we have to tell with Joel now? I mean, I understand that in The Last of Us Part 2, they're going to be starting off in Tommy's town, Jackson. So, I mean, they could definitely introduce new plots. But, I mean, at this point, in The Last of Us Part 2, I believe Joel's going to be in his early 50s. I imagine at this point in his life, he's probably looking to settle down, being in Jackson, and he just probably just wants to experience the rest of his life with Ellie. And but we'll see. I'm definitely curious to see what they do with Joel in this game. I mean, people wonder, like, is Joel gonna even be in this game? I'm like, Joel will definitely be in this game. I can promise you guys that Joel will be in this game, and I expect him to be in the game for a good portion of it. I don't know exactly what his role will be and what will happen to him, and I think that it they may it may be smart to kill off Joel in this game. I think that they could really create a compelling story, or they really add some shock value and meaning to what is angered Ellie. And I hope he just goes, if he dies, he goes in a dignified way, and that it's not it has to be done right. And that's all I would say. If they're gonna kill off Joel, it has to be done right, because Joel is one of my favorite protagonists in any video game, and I don't want to see him, go in an undignified way. Okay, guys, so without rambling on too long here, I just wanted to conclude the video here. And if you enjoyed the video, I would love if you could leave a like. If you didn't, dislike. Any constructive criticism would be great. And I hope you guys have a good day.